episodes of the Whitby Public Library From Book to Table. Well, hello everybody. I don't know about you, but my kitchen is a very busy place at this time of the year. But today I will show you how to make one of my favorite treats in the holiday season. As you probably guessed, I'm actually German, and my family and I have already started to celebrate the Advent time. And our Advent is the last 4 Sundays before Christmas Eve. So we celebrate every Sunday with a special home-baked treats, cookies, and Advent wreaths, so candles and decorations, Christmas songs, hot cocoa, and it's a real family time that I enjoyed as a child. So the cookies that I'm actually going to show you today how to bake are called Vanillekipferl. So the recipe that I'm going to be showing you today is actually a family recipe that has been in my family for a very long time, and one of my very favorite memories is baking these Vanillekipferl with my grandma in the Christmas season. However, I always try to check out some other recipes for the same kind of a dish, and of course my first stop is always the library. So I did come across a couple of really fun books and with some incredibly very German recipes. So one of the ones that I came across and I absolutely love is called Grandma's German Cookbook by Birgit Hamm and Lynn Schmidt. Now this cookbook has a lot of very authentic German recipes, and they do remind me a lot of exactly what my mom used to cook for us as a family. And I stumbled across this book and I absolutely love it. So this book I came across is actually reads more like a life story, a biography, but it has some fantastic recipes. The book is called My Berlin Kitchen, and it's by Louisa Weiss, and I love her story and how she became so passionate about cooking and very much of Berlin. So again, if you want a nice read with a cup of hot cocoa and wander through Berlin and cook with German ingredients, and this might be a really fun book. Okay, so let's get started with our Vanillekipferl. So one of the things that we have to start with, I actually started that a couple of days ago, is making my own vanilla sugar. In German baking, you always buy the little packets ready to go, but I actually do, and I learned from my grandma that baking with real vanilla, with a real vanilla bean, is uncomparable. It really tastes the best. So one of the things that you can get is and I got this from the Bulk Food Barn, is vanilla bean. So let me just open that up and show you. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're just going to slit our vanilla bean on the one side. So I'm just going to do that. And you can just basically open it in half then. Okay. And then we're going to get a little bit of sugar. I have about a cup of sugar here. I have a spoon. And you can scrape the seed, and it's a little bit like a paste. You can scrape that right out. There you go. And we'll put that in our sugar. And because it's very precious and it's very flavorful, you try to get as much of this out as possible. So I definitely can do a couple more scrapes here. And it's very much like a paste. Now what I even like to do, I'm taking a little bit of sugar and I sprinkle it right in the vanilla bean and rub it out a little bit, because then you even get more of that flavor right into your sugar. Try to get as much out of there as you possibly can. Okay, I'm going to add all that to my sugar. Now I take my finger and I just separate the paste a little bit into the sugar. There you go. I do cut my bean in half. The outside, I'm actually tucking it right in underneath the sugar. And I'm just going to let that sit for about 2 or 3 days before I cook or bake with it. Now, before we get started with mixing our dough, one of the things that I'm going to do is I'm going to just blitz my vanilla sugar in the blender a little bit. So I'm going to take these spent vanilla beans out. Now you could still reuse them and put them back in with some other sugar if you wanted to, because it does the aroma is quite intense. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put my sugar in my blender. Okay, I'm just going to blend this just for a couple of minutes. Okay. So my sugar is a little finer, so it's not powdered sugar, but it's a little bit coarser than that. But the vanilla is nicely blended now, and the fruit sugar is a little bit finer. So let's start putting the dough together. I'm going to work right off my kitchen counter surface. It is a stone surface. It's nice and cool, and this is what a dough like this likes. It is kind of a shortbread dough. So I'm going to start with 2 cups of flour, all measured out. I'm going to put that right in the middle. Okay. I have 1 cup of butter, which is 4 sticks. The butter has been out for a while, so it's room temperature. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to open these up. And I'm going to cut these. I'm going to open this one up too. I'm going to cut these in sort of little squares. That just makes it easier for me and quicker for me to work the dough together. All right, so I'm just going to cut these into little chunks. It's nice and softened up. So I'm going to make a well in the middle, and then I'm going to put these in. Okay, I'm actually going to add my 1 cup of ground almond flour already to this too. There we go. Before I add the other butter. Now let me talk a little bit about the ground almonds that I've just added. Now I have bought my ground almond, and you can buy them at the grocery store, pre-packaged, or at the bulk barn, loose. That's where I get most of my baking ingredients. However, when I made these cookies in Germany, we actually did not have that luxury. So we did buy almonds, fresh raw almonds, the skin on. We would throw those almonds in boiling water, boil them for 2 or 3 minutes. Then you could drain them, let them cool down a little bit, and the skin would slip right off. And then we would actually grind the almonds into almond flour ourselves. Believe it or not, it was a hand grinder. It did take some time, but the result is outstanding. The almond taste is better, and your consistency of your cookies are a little different, very nice. However, that is a lot of work, and nowadays I do just buy my almond flour. All right, the next thing I need is our powdered sugar and our vanilla sugar. So I have a 1/2 cup of my pre-sieved powdered sugar. I've done that already ahead of time too. And a 1/4 cup of my homemade vanilla sugar. All right. And in the middle of that, I'm gonna put my egg yolk. So I'm just gonna separate my egg. And here's my egg yolk. I'm just gonna put that aside too. And then you just have to work your dough together. Now it does take a little bit. You have to knead it. You have to mix all that butter with your flour, sugar, and almond flour mixture. Now usually this comes together fairly quickly. And you're just gonna form your dough. There, it's coming together already nicely. Now it does really work best on a cold counter. Now another trick is you definitely do want to mix your dough well, but you don't want to overwork it. So it's becoming a cohesive dough. So what I'm going to do is I like to use wax paper, and I'm going to make 4 sausages. So I'm going to cut my dough in 4 pieces. All right. Now some people say to make balls. I like to pre-form my dough into sausages, because we do have to, when they cool down a little bit, roll them out even more. So why not get them pre-shaped into this? All right, so all rolled up and ready to go in the fridge. Okay, so our dough has been in the fridge for about an hour and we are ready to roll it out and bake it. A quick disclaimer, so I'm sure you have noticed that I made a mistake. I actually ended up having too much butter in my dough. I realized that instead of having 1 cup, I actually ended up having 2 cups because I felt my dough was very, very soft. So I double checked on my measurements. I realized I put way too much butter in it. I added more of my other ingredients to make my proportions right again. I put it in the fridge and here we are with our dough. It's cooled down nicely, but one of the first things that we're going to do is we're going to preheat our oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. So let me just do that. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to roll this dough into about a thumb's width of a long coil. And I think I might do that on my counter again. And if it breaks apart, that's okay. It probably was too big of a chunk anyway to do that. Now my dough does not stick anymore. It has a little time in the fridge to settle, cool down. Of course, now I have my proportions right. And I'm just gonna roll that out like this. Okay. And now I'm gonna take about 2 inches, roll a little thinner, and form a crescent. And pinch down the sides, and it's going to look something like this. Of course, I like to line my baking sheets with a little bit of parchment paper, so let's do that. And my crescents go onto my parchment paper. So the trick to this is, of course, to try to keep them all the same thickness, because then they'll bake evenly. So this is where I like to roll them out in a coil, roll them out a little bit, pinch the ends, flatten them a little bit. Shape a quick crescent and put them on my baking sheet. So my Oma would tell me stories of when she was a little girl while we were doing this. She had very interesting stories, of course, to tell. Now, I've made this with my girls, these with my girls before too. Okay. Now, we still don't want to overwork the dough too much, because we like our Vanillekipferl to be nice and tender. Okay. Now, of course, it's everybody's preference of how big you would like those kind of Vanillekipferl to be. Now they don't puff up a huge amount because it's a shortbread and they don't have any baking powder in it. And, you know, a cookie with a cup of coffee or two is really all you want. And that's my first cookie sheet ready to go. They're going in the oven. And they bake for about, depending on your oven, 12 to 13 minutes. Start checking them at about 11 minutes, I would say. You don't want them too dark. They really are quite a tender and delicate cookie, so you don't want to get them too dark because that changes your taste. So when the edges just start to brown a little bit, your cookies are ready. So while our cookies are baking, we are going to get our sugar coating ready. So I have another baking pan here, and of course I have my prepared powdered sugar, vanilla sugar mix. So what I like to do is I like to just sprinkle some on the base or on the bottom of our cookie sheet. Okay. And then, because when they're ready to come out, then we like to coat our entire cookie, and this makes it a little bit easier. So they are ready to come out. Let me show you. See the brown edges? Okay, let me show you. All right. It is important to let these cool down on the cookie sheet for about 2 minutes to firm up a little bit, but meanwhile we're going to put our next sheet in. Okay. So we're just going to let these cool down a little bit, and we get our powdered sugar mixture ready. We have the base, and I'm also going to put some in my sieve and get that ready. Now these have been again sitting and cooling down just ever so slightly, so they have firmed up a little bit, but they're not too cold yet to absorb all that lovely vanilla flavoring and the sugar. There we go. Now we're going to swish them around a little to really get the bottom coated, and now we're just going to sprinkle it with copious amounts of our powdered sugar, homemade vanilla sugar mix. Okay. And you know, these little cookies that break are always the baker's treat and the little taste test. All right. All right, and then we're just going to transfer them to our grill here to let them cool down a little. Now, these cookies store extremely well in a normal cookie tin in a dry, cool place, and they should last you throughout your entire holiday season. Of course, if you have lots of guests and lovely Advent Sunday afternoons, they might not last you that long, but they do store very well because they are a shortbread cookie, and they are definitely one of my most favorite treats. Well, I finished baking up the last of our cookie batch, and this is our result. They look good, maybe a little bit big. I think my omas were a little bit smaller, but who doesn't like a vanilla tasting cookie? All right, so I am going to store them in my regular cookie tin. I like to put a piece of wax paper at the bottom. I'm doing that. And I am just very gently putting them all in my tin, just like that. Now, what I like to do is I like to add our leftover vanilla bean shell. Because even though we've taken all the inside seeds and soft matter out for our sugar, these shells actually still diffuse a lot of aroma. So I'm actually going to put them in my tin so that I get that last bit of vanilla aroma into these delicious cookies. So I will just continue stacking them a little later. I hope you enjoyed baking Vanillekipferl with me today. It's been a joy sharing one of my recipes that has been in my family, part of my German tradition. So thank you very much for watching. Please follow us on social media or visit us at whitbylibrary.ca to discover more of our online programs and collections. Recipes and book suggestions are listed in the description box below. Please also hit the subscribe button and bell notification for notifications of our upcoming online programs. I wish you all a very happy holiday season filled with joy and many happy memories.